Imagine you step into the arena amid the cheers of thousands, loud cheers, the excitement of thousands, blood and sweat stains in the sand beneath your feet, sword in hand, your mortal enemy before you. All eyes are on you. If you win, fame and perhaps freedom. If you lose, death. This was ancient Rome's bloodiest and most popular entertainment, gladiatorial combat. Today, in Legends of Rome, we take a closer look at this bloody tradition, from the origins of gladiators to the legendary fights in the Colosseum, which became entertainment for the people, but a powerful propaganda tool for emperors. The origins of gladiatorial combat did not lie with Rome, but stretched back to the Etruscans. The Etruscans held bloody fights at burial ceremonies to honor the spirits of fallen warriors. This tradition eventually passed to Rome. Initially, gladiatorial combat was a religious ritual. It was based on funeral rites held to honor the spirit of a deceased nobleman. The Etruscans and early Romans believed that having prisoners of war or slaves fight each other at the grave of the deceased would purify the spirit of the dead through the bloodshed. But as Rome grew and war booty increased, these ceremonies turned into mass entertainment. The first recorded gladiatorial combat in Rome dates back to 264 BC. Over time, these small memorial ceremonies evolved into large spectacles watched by tens of thousands in huge arenas. As the empire expanded, the number of war prisoners increased, and gladiator schools were established. The goal was no longer to honor the dead, but to entertain the public and strengthen the empire's power. Becoming a gladiator would become a profession that even a free man could choose. Gladiators were usually slaves, but not only slaves. Some free Romans also chose to enter the arena for fame and money, because becoming a gladiator, though a bloody path, was a way to become a folk hero in Rome. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, criminals, or debtors who had been punished, but some were volunteers. They were called octorati. They were people who chose to enter the arena, risking their lives for freedom. A gladiator's life was, at best, brutal and difficult. Gladiators lived and trained in special schools called ludus. Although they received food, shelter, and medical care, their lives were completely under the control of their owners. Every day they trained for hours in heavy armor, learning sword, spear, and net-throwing techniques. The discipline in these schools was even stricter than that of military legions. Gladiators were classified according to different fighting styles and equipment. One of the most popular types was the murmillo, who wore a large shield and helmet. The retiarius, who used a net and a three-pronged spear and wore light armor, usually fought against the murmillo. The secutor, whose face was hidden by his armored helmet, was protected from deadly blows by his heavy armor, despite limiting his opponent's field of vision. These different types made the fights more interesting and unpredictable. A gladiator could enjoy fame and wealth. They were like modern athletes, the darlings of women and the public. But it should not be forgotten that they faced death at every moment of their careers. The successful ones became heroes in the eyes of the public. One of Rome's most famous gladiators was, of course, Spartacus. We will discuss Spartacus in detail in another section. For now, let us continue with our topic. At the height of the Roman Empire, gladiator fights were held in the Colosseum, also known as the Flavian Amphitheater. When the Colosseum was inaugurated by Titus in 80 A.D., it became Rome's largest entertainment center. The Colosseum could accommodate over 50,000 people. Not only the Roman people, but emperors also put on their shows here, because it wasn't just gladiators on the arena stage, it was also the power of Rome. Gladiators, wild animals, and stage mechanics were prepared in the complex tunnels beneath the Colosseum. Dozens of fights could take place in a single day, with lions, elephants, and tigers brought from Africa being brought into the arena. This was not just a fight, but a full-fledged show. Sometimes, even fake naval battles imitating ship battles were staged in the arena. The fights usually began in the afternoon and lasted until sunset. When the day of the fight arrived, the gladiators entered the arena in a magnificent procession. They turned to the audience and uttered their famous words, Ave Caesar, morituri te salutant. Hail Caesar, those who are about to die salute you. The fights usually lasted until the very end. When a gladiator fell to the ground, his fate was in the emperor's hands. If the emperor turned his thumb upward, the wounded gladiator was spared. If he turned it downward, he was executed. This was often the path to death, but it should be remembered that not every fight ended in death. Because a gladiator's training and equipment were very expensive, their owners wanted to protect them. For the public, it was an escape. The poor, the rich, even emperors sat side by side watching the bloodshed. This brutality was a way to demonstrate Rome's power. So, was it just entertainment, or did it serve a deeper purpose? Gladiator fights were not just a bloody sport, they had also become a powerful tool of Roman politics. Gladiator fights were an excellent tool for distracting the Roman people. The Roman people were fed, entertained, and made to forget political issues. The bread and circuses, panem et circenses policy, was the key to the emperor's control over the people. The bigger the show an emperor staged in the arena, the more powerful he appeared to the people. Emperors would send hundreds of gladiators into the arena to celebrate their victories. For example, Trajan organized games lasting 123 days to celebrate his victory in Dacia. 10,000 gladiators died. Gladiator fights were a way to showcase Rome's grandeur, wealth, and the emperor's generosity. It was also a message. It demonstrated Rome's ruthlessness and power against its enemies. Gladiators, even though they were slaves, were cheered like heroes. Some won and gained their freedom. Some even went down in history through rebellions. Yet for most, the arena was a grave. Gladiator fights were a way to showcase Rome's grandeur, wealth, and the emperor's generosity. But the other side of the story was bloodier. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, of people died in every fight. The crowd's excitement was actually built on people's deaths. So how did this bloody legacy come to an end? This tradition gradually came to an end with the spread of Christianity in the 5th century A.D. In 404, the last games were held when a monk entered the arena and tried to stop the fights. Gladiators, Rome's bloody entertainment, the stars of the arena where death and freedom met. On one hand, they awaited death. On the other, they won the affection of the people. They were both victims of a ruthless system and Rome's biggest superstars. Their bloody fights revealed both Rome's violent nature and how power controlled the people. Gladiators have long since disappeared into the dusty pages of history, but their stories live on, still being told. If you liked the video, please like it. If you didn't like it, please dislike it and subscribe to my channel for more stories from the ancient world.